Hello there, welcome to Genesis Models. My name is Bobby Waldron and welcome to episode 2 of the Spitfire build. We're just going to jump straight in here and we've got magazine number 3. This is where we start building up some nice engine details. So what we're going to do is start gluing these together. Now with these engines, they can look a little bit sort of confusing on which way they're orientated and everything. So what you sort of need to do is just sort of remember that with these two pieces, obviously we've got this ledge just here, and if they match up we should be good, but we can dry fit first. And just as a quick sort of to make sure, right, what you basically want to be able to do is these two engine parts should come together like so. So you end up with this kind of like a V shape going on, whereby we've got both little edges just either side there, and they'll get sandwiched in with these two parts just here that we bring together. The real sort of confusion comes with the top of the engine just here, which if I just get a little piece here, we bring these two together, and what we want to do is just make sure that this sort of a T-shape part just here, the bit of a T-shape bit, is where the ledge is, whereas this is more of a flat sort of area. But basically it goes like that, hopefully, as you can see just there. Now we want to sort of glue these together. This is plastic, so we can glue it together quite nicely. So I'm just going to get our Tamiya extra thin cement. Right, we're going to get a nice bit of glue, and the Tamiya extra thin cement, as we sort of run it along there nicely, it's so thin, it's got the capillary action to actually get in where the join line is and sucks in there and just gets the glue exactly where you want it, right? Which is why I do prefer some Tamiya extra thin cement. Then I have been sort of pressing this as I've been holding this as well, so now I can like put a closed peg just on here just to lock that down, so I can not need to put any pressure there. Then I can do the opposite side as well, just run it right down that join line just there, and there you go. That should now basically sort of dissolve the plastic, which then makes the plastic go all gooey, and when they join together they basically kind of just become one, which is what's so good about it. And because we can see the inside, let's get in here. We've got these little pegs and holes just inside here, which is what joins together. Let's get them as well. Any sort of gluing you can do on the inside, all good, because it just makes it all stronger. Right, and that should be nicely glued. Just leave it for maybe about 5 minutes and that should be nice and hard, because I am using, by the way, I'm using the quick setting version, which just sets a lot sort of quicker, and as I say, 5 minutes is probably good. They do other versions which you might want to leave it a little bit longer to actually dry, and then we can move along with the next bit, which for this we do have our top of our engines just here, and then we should have these nice little bits of detail just here, right, which has got the Rolls Royce on there. This fits on very nicely fits, but always test fit anyway. But these are made out of metal, so we need to like now step into super glue, because Tamiya thin cement will not have any effect whatsoever on metal, because it's more of a chemical reaction rather than a bonding glue, right? So this actually reacts with plastic and melts it, but anything else won't even touch it. So we're going to get out some super glue. When it comes to super glue, there are lots of fancy super glues you can go out and get in hobbies. It is good to go get. I mean, I know they do like thicker ones and thinner ones, and they're good for different applications, but for your standard bog standard bit of super gluing, just go out and buy some cheap stuff. Problem is with super glue is, as you could probably see already with this one, the nozzles, they get really sort of manky really quickly. And all these sort of more expensive ones that you can buy online specifically for hobbies, right, they normally come in like bigger tubs, and you know that the nozzles end up going icky really sort of badly kind of quickly, and you know end up getting ruined before you can actually use all the super glue, which is what I've done in the past, and I've ended up having to throw whole bottles because the nozzles have gone. And I just find that these glue just as good, and because they come in just these 3 gram amounts, that you know you can use them before the nozzles go. But anyway, moving along, I always like to get a little scrap pot, something like this. It's just anything sort of scrap, just to pour the super glue out on. We don't want to be using this nozzle to glue with. It's more messier, bits of oozed out super glue, and you end up adding more than you need to. It's better to kind of have a more precise applicator, which cocktail sticks is always a good one for this. Nice, precise, really nice and cheap. We can get a little bit on the end of our cocktail stick here, and just in these 2 little holes here I'm just going to put a nice bit of super glue. Now when it comes to super glue, it is good to make sure that you don't overdo it, because with super glue, if we put too much in there and it oozes out, right, I mean, you know, it's going to create us problems. We're going to have to try and actually sort of clean it up and all that stuff, and you want to get it in as quick as possible before it dries. And there we go, we've got our nice little Rolls-Royce plaque just in there, and that should be all nice and glued, which probably brings us now back to the rest of our main engine bit here. Should be okay. And we're going to glue this on here. Again, we've got to make sure we don't put too much super glue down. I'm just going to sort of, just in spots, just around the edges, just put a little bit of our super glue. Again, don't put too much in. When we press this down, we don't want the super glue oozing out, because super glue is a pain to clean up afterwards, right? And we only need really a little bit in a couple of spots like I've just done there, and then we want to just get it on pretty quick. We don't want to be messing about because it will bite down pretty quick. I'm going to just quickly get a peg just on there because I'm seeing a quick little bit of a gap that I can just quickly lock down before the super glue goes off. And there we go, that is now all nicely glued. Just give that a couple of seconds and we can remove the pegs and move along. With all that glued in, nicely dried, what we want to do is get this in. This is nice and quick, but what you want to make sure is this is orientated just right as well. So what we want, right, is when we bring this piece in there, this is all pretty sort of nice and flush. That means you've got it in the right position, not that way, you know, where there's that sort of hole there. You know, you want it so it's nice and flush and you've got these 2 little holes, right? And then this is sort of a little bit tricky because we've got to somehow try and bring these pieces together without them falling apart. That can be just a little bit tricky just to bring them together, but eventually you do sort of get them together, right? And then plain and simply throw a screw just down there, and then you could probably, because this is plastic as well, probably put a little bit of good old glue, Tamiya's thin cement around there just to lock that in, real nice. Now as we come into magazine number 4, we are going to start facing some problems, sort of like defaults in the kit, so to speak. What we have here is a sprue, and on this sprue we've got to cut these off. Now I'm just going to quickly show you cutting these off, but basically when you cut something off, you don't really want to be cutting right up, coming along with some cutters and just cutting right up to the actual piece, because you could damage the piece. Probably a good idea just to turn this over and cut it from there, just so as we leave that little bit of a tab on there. That way we don't damage the piece, and we can either sand or shave off with a blade. I prefer to use a blade, and I'll just shave off. I don't come right to the piece because again, don't want to damage it, but by shaving off a little bit of a tab here, we'll slowly get closer to the piece, right, and get it nicely cleaned off. right? And then maybe just as we get right to our piece, I like to just scrape like so. Right, you can use sanding sticks if you wanted to, by all means go ahead. Same this side, I'll probably just cut that off. Right, but as you might be noticing as I'm cutting at this, what's basically happened here is we've got black plastic, right, and then they've sprayed it for us all nice and silver, right, but we've got to clean this up. We've got to cut these off the sprues, and what happens, but we end up scraping the paint off, right? So as you can see there, those tabs have been nicely cleaned up, so we've just got the piece, but we've got these black marks on it. What this basically means is we need to spray it. I'm not quite sure if we're actually going to see these marks. Maybe they've kind of counted that in there, that, you know, the engine is all going to be around this piece and you don't actually see it, but probably best safe to actually go along and spray it. But just getting a bit of super glue, because this is plastic, this is metal, because we're dealing with metal, we've got to super glue it in. So I'm just going to super glue this. So this is all now nicely glued together. Now I'm going to go off and I'm going to spray this. I'm not going to show you spraying because I really sort of want to show you that more down the line in more detail and stuff, but just spraying this little bit is just a little bit of a little tiny bit, but I really want to show you more in detail. If you want to sort of learn, right, on the Genesis Models website in the tutorial section, we've got a nice beginner's guide, basic spraying and tutorials, as well as loads of other videos on spraying as well. I'm going to go off and I'm going to spray this lovely Extreme Metals by AK Interactive. It's their aluminium, I think that's AK.1a, but it's their aluminium color. I'm going to spray it that. I'm going to do it off camera, and as I say, I want to show you, I really want to show you more later on down the line, more properly and everything, but for this little piece I'll just leave you to go watch some other videos on spraying that I've done, and I'm going to be using this color.